Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple. The Parc des Princes was the stage as two of Europe's finest prepared to face off in the Champions League, as Pochettino's PSG were hosting Guardiola's City. PSG have found their form lately, while City are coming in off the back of a Carabao Cup win, so this was set to be fascinating. And in the end, the game finished 2-1 to City thanks to De Bruyne and Mahrez after Marquinhos had opened the scoring. The XG showed that it was PSG who created more, 1.53 to 0.89. But what tactics did both managers use? Let's take a look. And speaking of European football, check out our mini documentary on the rise and fall of the European Super League, which will be linked below and at the end. A reminder of the formations, with both opting for the 4-3-3, at least on paper. Let's start with what PSG did in possession. From the goal kick, PSG looked to play out and were generally successful in doing so. Both centre-backs would drop deep to provide options, whilst the full-backs remained higher and the PSG midfield was staggered. And City were generally aggressive in pressing in these phases. They shifted to a 4-4-2, with Bernardo joining De Bruyne and the wingers initially leaving the pass into the fullbacks open. As soon as the ball became active, a City forward would try to press the on-the-ball centre-back, whilst the other would then look to cover Gay. Down the right in particular, PSG was successful as Marquinhos is strong on the ball. City's pressing shape would often mean that Gundogan and Rodri would be man-to-man in midfield, whilst the threat of Mbappe's pace in behind meant that Stones and Diaz were reluctant to push up high, and this created acres of space between the lines. So Di Maria could move central to receive between the lines, or, more commonly, Neymar was comfortable operating deep, coming deep to receive, and turning to then look to move the team up the pitch. And higher up the pitch, when the game was 11 versus 11, City struggled in midfield, especially with Bernardo often higher up, as he was ready to make it a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3 when defending. When he did push up to make a front two, Verratti tended to be the most advanced of the three and could receive a line-breaking pass with ease. But the way Poch used his fullbacks in this match was key in the attacking phase. Both Florenzi and Bakker tended to provide the width early on, and down the left, this allowed Neymar to initially operate as a second forward alongside Mbappe. So if City's midfield was a 3 instead with Bernardo deeper and looking to go man-to-man, Neymar would then often drop to receive the line-breaking pass between the lines. In the first half, down the right, PSG were particularly dangerous. And City's pressing shape left them vulnerable to this, as especially with Bernardo deeper, Foden was time and again caught high up the pitch as he was looking to press much narrower. This could consistently leave Cancelo 2 versus 1 down when the switch did come, and PSG could then look to take advantage, with Di Maria often looking to run at his man. But the width provided by Florenzi also allowed Di Maria to operate more centrally, and this could be in the half space to drag in Cancelo and allow the switch into Florenzi. Di Maria is also comfortable dropping deeper to get on the ball and look for men between the lines. Or even moving higher to be the 10 himself, receiving and looking to then create or get a shot off. The bottom line was that City found themselves heavily outnumbered in these central areas often. But what did City do on the ball? They were generally able to come through the first phase unchallenged, with PSG not pressing particularly high. Instead, PSG looked to generally remain deeper in a 4-4-1-1, with Neymar at times dropping deeper to assist the midfield. Neymar was often the man who determined whether they pressed or not, as when he pushed out onto the second centre-back, the midfield would then spring forward to back up the press, and early in the match, Rodri struggled when under pressure. But with City using De Bruyne as the false 9, by remaining deeper and compact, it was harder for City to find space between the lines centrally. But they did manage to find much more space down the flanks, and often looked to overload the left. And in the first half, De Bruyne would move into the left half space with Foden wide and Cancelo deeper. Bernardo would push up into the right half space, dragging Bacca more central. The PSG midfield would also often be dragged across to deal with the overload. And if Di Maria looked to press the ball carrier, this could cause problems as De Bruyne in this space would be difficult to mark. And with Foden making the run down the outside, if the fullback tracked Foden, De Bruyne would be free to receive. However, if all options were occupied, City would often look to make the switch into Mahrez, who could then look to take on his man. But let's touch on a couple of the second half adjustments. Pep switched to a more concerted double false 9 when on the ball, with Foden operating much more centrally and Cancelo providing the width instead down the outside. This allowed them to have much more control of the ball in central regions due to having more numbers, and the quick passing would be able to shift PSG's men out of position much more. It would also mean that Verratti, who had been the de facto left winger when defending, would be drawn much more narrow to compensate for the lack of numbers. And City would time and again look to take advantage of this by keeping both Mahrez and Bernardo wide, sometimes even joined by Walker. And we would often see Mahrez and Bernardo then look to combine, with Bernardo's run into the half space, either freeing space for Mahrez to cut in and look for the cross, but Bernardo or Walker could then often also be played in that half space to look for the cross. But City were nowhere near their attacking best today and struggled to create high quality chances. And overall, City were lucky to come away with a 2-1 win, and PSG will have plenty of positives to take away. It promises to be a fascinating tie in the second leg. But what did you make of today's match? Drop it down in the comments below. A quick shout out to my Patreons for helping to make this video possible. If you want to support, head on over to patreon.com/footballmadesimple and you'll get rewards like early access to videos and exclusive content. And a special thanks to Vance Brown and Dave Lukeski for their support on the Patreon Ultra tier. But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.